The Bay Area, famous for the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, the world-renowned University of California in Berkeley, and a historic location of ship construction during World War II, serves as a home to over 6 million people. However, within the Bay Area lies a potential threat that could impact the health of its residents, and that threat is PFAS. PFAS, or per or polyfluoroalkyl substances, are a family of synthetic fluorine-rich compounds. These chemicals are known for their resistance to high temperatures, water, air, and the ability to persist in the surrounding environment without degradation for centuries, given the name forever chemicals. But you might be wondering, how does this affect me? Well, to answer this question, we must find out the origins, the application of PFAS, and how it became a problem to understand its impact in the Bay Area. On April 6, 1938, American chemist Dr. Roy J. Plunkett was working to create a competing refrigerant to one that was already on the market. After checking a frozen compressed sample of tetrafluorethene, he and his associates made an unexpected discovery. The sample had polymerized spontaneously into a white waxy solid to form polytetrafluorethene, also known as PTFE. Testing revealed that the new substance, PTFE, was chemically very stable and had a remarkable ability to repel water and oil. This was the first PFAS ever invented, and it was soon put to good use in the Manhattan Project. After World War II, the American chemical company DuPont marketed this substance in a very successful product it called Teflon. But it wouldn't be until the 1950s when people saw products with Teflon and other newly created PFAS in stores. Since the discovery of PFAS, manufacturers from all over the world have begun to integrate PFAS onto current and new products. Today, there are over 9,000 known PFAS compounds, and of 600 are currently used in the U.S. Initially being used for nonstick and waterproof coating, has now expanded to appliances. Some of the products that contain PFAS are some firefighting foams, nonstick pans, fast food packaging, water-resistant clothing, stain-resistant carpets, furniture, textiles, dental floss, and some plastic containers. The application of PFAS is also not limited to appliances, but has expanded into the industrial world, such as aerospace, construction, automotive, healthcare, and electronic industries. Even the company Apple has admitted to using PFAS in their devices. However, the extensive utilization of PFAS has raised concerns regarding its impact on the environment and human health. In the early 1970s, 3M, the conglomerate that was manufacturing PFOA, a key ingredient in the production of Teflon at the time, knew that PFAS was accumulating in human blood. However, the company 3M would keep this as a secret and would not disclose this information to the EPA until 1998. When this became public, researchers started researching the potential effects that these chemicals may have on people and the sources of exposure. The number one way people are exposed to these chemicals is through contaminated foods and drinking water. The food that we eat can be exposed to PFAS through their packaging, such as food wrappers and containers. In addition, tap water especially can be contaminated through contaminated water sources, such as reservoirs or groundwater. Contaminated water supplies stem from illegal and past industrial chemical discharges, military activities, especially through the use of firefighting foams, landfills, and discharge from wastewater treatment plants. People that live closer to manufacturers that use PFAS or military bases have a significantly higher chance to be exposed to PFAS because these areas are the source of contamination. In Minnesota, when people in communities that were affected with contamination in their tap water realized that 3M was responsible, residents and local governments started to sue 3M for the illegal discharges into local streams and rivers. In one of these cases, in 2002, the Minnesota Department of Health began partnering with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to investigate PFAS in drinking water near the 3M Cottage Grove plant. The Minnesota's investigations result in the discovery of groundwater contamination affecting the drinking water supplies of over 140,000 Minnesotans. Cases like these started to become more frequent as more communities and local governments started testing their drinking water for PFAS. When the EPA started to test water supplies around the country, the results of the data reveal that the contamination is possibly affecting hundreds of millions of Americans. This is an issue because since PFAS are bioaccumulative, meaning they accumulate faster than they leave, there is no way for our body to destroy these chemicals within us. According to an article by Business Insider, the chemicals PFOA, PFOS, and PFHXS can take at least 3 years to leave your body, and that's if you have no further exposure to them. Humans and animals can also be exposed to PFAS through the process of bioamplification. Bioamplification is the increase of concentration of a substance in the tissues of organisms at successively higher levels in a food chain. Animals and humans are susceptible to this by indirectly eating foods such as fish and meat that are contaminated with PFAS. This is an issue for people since research claims that exposure to certain levels of PFAS may lead to increased risk of some cancers, including prostate, kidney, and testicular cancers, increased cholesterol levels, reduced ability of the body's immune system to fight infections, and some PFAS are linked to be endocrine disruptors, meaning that they interfere with your hormonal system. And to make matters worse, one report by the CDC using data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey found PFAS to be in the blood of 97% of Americans. So after all of this new information, what is the situation like for the residents of the Bay Area? According to all of these county water districts, all of the water supplies contained detectable levels of PFAS, but they were all below the EPA's and California's advisory limit for all PFAS chemicals. This means that the tap water is safe to use and drink. A reason for this is the source of the water. The water that supplies the Bay Area is not near any chemical industry plant or military bases. This ensures that any possible PFAS contamination is highly unlikely. As for the Bay water itself, according to a study conducted by the San Francisco Estuary Institute, multiple types of PFAS were found at low levels in the part per trillion in samples throughout the bay, but concluded saying that overall, PFAS in San Francisco Bay waters appears to be a potential human health concern in terms of seafood ingestion, rather than a concern for aquatic biota. So PFAS are emerging contaminants of moderate concern in the bay. One notable city in the bay has also responded to this issue of PFAS. San Francisco. The city of San Francisco has already contributed significant efforts to reduce sources of forever chemicals, and even won an award for them. In 2018, it passed citywide legislation banning PFAS in takeout food serviceware, and in 2020, it worked with the Biodegradable Products Institute to prohibit PFAS in certified compostable food serviceware. San Francisco also passed regulations prohibiting the city from purchasing carpet and furniture with PFAS containing stain resistance treatments. The state of California has also done monumental work to reduce residents' exposure to PFAS by implementing new laws such as banning the use of PFAS in firefighting foams, banning PFAS in fiber or paper-based food packaging, banning PFAS in specified products designed for use by infants and children under 12 years of age, banning PFAS in carpets, rugs, and aftermarket fabric sprays, and banning PFAS in clothing and household textiles by January 2025. Additionally, the FDA recently announced that grease-proofing substances and plastic containers containing PFAS are no longer being sold by manufacturers for food contact use in the U.S. If we want to ensure the safety of people and the environment, we need to prevent further contamination at its source through regulation. So far, the two most notorious PFAS chemicals, PFOS and PFOA, have already been phased out of production nationwide, but this is clearly not enough. Some of the steps that governments can take to reduce PFAS exposure are: first, The EPA should regulate PFAS chemicals as a class or subgroups instead of individually, since new PFAS chemicals can be created with only minor adjustments to avoid regulation. Second, the EPA should mandate all water supplies in America to have enforceable limits of PFAS in water supplies and implement new systems to filter out PFAS in wastewater facilities and tap water. Third, manufacturers should also be required to use shorter chain PFAS chemicals, which potentially are easier to degrade and don't bioaccumulate, and use alternatives to PFAS if possible. The EPA should also require manufacturers to disclose to the consumer if PFAS are contained in a product, since they are not required to. PTFE and other PFAS should also not be used in consumer products that are consistently used and thrown away, since they are not biodegradable. And as a consumer listening to this video, if you want to reduce possible exposure to PFAS, you can use this website that contains a list of products that contain no PFAS according to the manufacturers. And you can use this website that has a list of stores and brands that have banned or limited PFAS use in their products. You can also purchase a reverse osmosis water filter system, but they may not be needed if your tap water is supplied by Edmund, since it is safe. Finally, if you want to purchase a pan that contains no PFAS, then you can either buy a stainless steel pan or a cast iron pan because they have zero PFAS. But if you want to buy a nonstick pan, make sure that the pan contains the label no PFAS. Through these steps, we can actively prevent exposure to PFAS and champion responsible chemistry as the cornerstone of future chemical innovation.